If you're watching this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things that I'm personally going through and the things that I am learning from it that are going to help us with our wealth building journey, but also have a fulfilled life. And I want to tell you about some things that we're experiencing right now and some of the lessons that I'm learning from that. So, as you know, we're pregnant. We are having a third baby in August. Hopefully he'll make it until August. His due date was August 25th. We're expecting he's probably going to come on August 16th, but as of yesterday, we now know for absolute certain that my wife has something called preeclampsia, which affects about 5 to 8% of pregnant women, and it can lead to stroke, it can lead to seizures, and it can lead to death. And it is a very serious, life-threatening complication that we had with our daughter Charity, and we're having again. And needless to say, we're going to take a break. We'd like to have 4 kids. That's what we've always wanted. We've always known that. Probably going to take a break for a while, at least a few years, but just so that her body has a lot of time to heal. But obviously, this is a very scary experience because Sarah, obviously, I love her to death, and I want to make sure she's taken care of, and she's going through a lot right now. And so I just want to kind of go over some of the lessons that I'm learning right now and how you can maybe apply that into your life. Because I know you might be thinking, oh, Jeb, I care about you, but I don't really care enough to listen to you talk about this for 8 minutes. So I'm going to apply this to you and how you can use this to be helpful for your life. And so first things first, the things that I'm learning about this is that we've really got to trust God. We've really, really, really got to be faithful because, by the way, nowhere in Scripture does it say that life's going to be easy. In fact, Jesus promises us. He tells us explicitly that life's going to be hard in this life. We're going to be persecuted. We're going to deal with pain. We're going to deal with disease. We're going to deal with these things. And he makes no promise that he's going to make those things disappear. That's a false gospel. That is not what the promise is. The promise is that by following him, there will not be pain in the next life. There will not be suffering in the next life. He'll wipe away tears, all the tears in the next life, and we'll get a taste of that in this life. We're going to get all of that in the next life. So we've really got to be faithful to him and say, oh my goodness, this world is so broken because of sin. And so we've got to trust him that it's going to, that we've got something better that we're looking forward to. That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm just constantly reminded of how I have to die to self. I have to lay down my life and say, hey, my wife needs me. What can I do to serve her? And I really want you guys to be thinking that way too. If your spouse is going through something, be there for them. Like a lot of times marriage actually comes up in coaching because sometimes, people don't have their finances combined. Sometimes there's been broken trust in the finances. Sometimes somebody has done something wrong with the finances and it causes this broken trust. Guys, build each other's trust. Build each other's trust. Let this financial sovereignty movement that we're building here be a movement that will bring you closer to your spouse, closer to your children, and closer to everybody around you, because when you are trustworthy and responsible in one area of your life, oftentimes that will bleed over into the other areas of your life, which is one of the ways that I hope what we're teaching can minister to you. And so being financially sovereign, being in control of myself and using myself correctly means taking as good a care of her as I can. I'm far more able-bodied than she is right now. She's at the very tail end of pregnancy, which is hard enough, and then these complications, she needs to be resting. So it's on me to take care of her the best that I can and our kids the best that I can. She wants to be up and doing stuff, but she just can't. So I have to do that. And I take that with a lot of joy and pleasure that I'm so glad that I get to do that. So how do I apply some of the things that I'm learning here to what you might be going through in life? Well, whenever the market is kind of unpredictable, which is all the time, and especially when the market seems scary, which it might seem now, with the Ethereum ETF having just gone online and the inflows now actually being lower than the outflows. We've actually got net outflows of 177 million, somewhere around there, over the first 3 days of trading, mainly because Grayscale has seen about $1.2 billion in exodus out of its fund. Over 12% of the fund of the value that was in the fund has already left the fund in the first 72 hours, first 3 days of the fund. So that can be scary. That can be freaky for people. And so when you're faced with something scary or freaky, then there's 2 things I want to encourage you to consider. First of all, why? Second of all, what? First of all, why are you scared? And should you be? Sometimes it's an irrational fear. Sometimes, if you're, here's an irrational fear. When I was in high school, I was dual enrolled at college. I was going to college, and I would not eat lunch. I was so socially anxious. Now I make videos in front of thousands of people, right? But I was so socially anxious, I would not eat lunch. I would not go through the line and get food, and I didn't pack it, so I had to buy it, which I didn't have the money to be doing anyway, but that's what I was doing. I would not get food. I would not go through the subway line. The people there were as friendly as they could be. They're nice guys, nice, kind people. I would not do it because I had this irrational fear of speaking to people I didn't know. I was never abused or anything like that. It just didn't, it was an irrational fear. That being said, sometimes you've got a rational fear. Like, it makes sense for me to be kind of scared right now, and it makes sense for my wife to be kind of scared, but the good news is that there's treatment. And so if there's a fear and there's it kind of makes sense why you'd be afraid, then you have to ask yourself, what? That's the second question. What should I do about the fact that I'm afraid? And so there's two ways you can handle fear. Either one, you can get paralyzed with it and you can freeze. Fight, flight, freeze. You can freeze, right? You can freeze up and not do anything or run away, and then that doesn't get you anywhere. In these situations, you don't get to run away from a health complication that your wife has. You don't get to run away from the fact that we might have to be induced or have to have an emergency C-section. You don't get to run away from those things. That's not a choice that I get. I don't want to do that, to be clear, but it's never on the table in the first place, even if I wanted to, which I don't. She obviously can't. I can't. We can't run away from it. It's not something you can get away from. The only other option is to fight through it. And so if you're afraid, then the one hand, you get to just roll over and not do anything and let whatever it is just destroy you. Like, oh, I'm afraid. Like, for a long time, I was afraid to open my mailbox because I had some financial problems. I wasn't managing my money right. I thought there was going to be a letter in there that was going to blow up my whole world. I was terrified to open my mailbox. Somebody knock on the door, I would freak me out because I had this fear of, man, I was not running my life correctly. So somebody knocks on the door, I'm like, gosh, who is that? Like, what are they doing here? You've got these fears, and you've got to ask, why is that happening? And if there's a good reason that it's happening, you need to say, what can I do about it? And for you and for me right now, if you're facing this fear of the market, or if I'm facing this fear of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to my wife, then we've got to say, what can we do about it? For me, the first thing is I get down on my knees and I pray to God that he would protect her and cover her, and keep her safe. And two, I get to get up and do something about it. Make sure she's got water, make sure she's got food, make sure she is resting, make sure I'm taking care of the kids and the house and all that stuff so that she don't have to worry about that and she can be in bed as much as possible, resting up. Because, preeclampsia comes from potentially your liver and your kidneys shutting down because they're not getting the nutrients and the rest and the water that they need. So we're trying to keep her resting. That's what I can do about that. I can encourage her. I can look her in the eye and say, sweetie, it's going to be okay. I got you. There are things that we can do about it. And so for you, again, the application here, if you're still watching, because I know a bunch of people clicked out because it's not normal content that I make. If you're still watching, here's the application for you. You can look straight in the face of the person in your life that's hurting. You can look yourself straight in the face in the mirror. You can look straight into the eye of the problem that you're dealing with, and you can say, I've got this. Not because I have it in me, but because the people that have taught me have shown me how to handle this. But because there's a God in heaven who's watching over me, who is going to lead me. I've got this, not in a prideful way of saying, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing, but I've got this in the sense that I am not going to be overcome by my fear, but instead, I am going to do exactly what we teach in financial sovereignty, which is how this all comes full circle. I'm going to control those things which I am called to be in control of. And I will not be controlled by those things which should not be controlling me. In other words, one of the things I say in FinSov is, I will be a slave to nothing, but I will have a mastery over those things which I'm supposed to have mastery over. And so when you are master over your emotions, you recognize that you're afraid. And it's okay to feel that. And you honestly should. If there's a if it's a rational fear, if it's a rational fear, then you should allow yourself to feel that a little bit. You got to be honest with yourself. If your emotions are there for a reason. If it's irrational, then you just need to rebuke it and say, that's a stupid thing to be afraid of. I gotta grow up and move on. If it's a rational fear, it's okay to feel the fear. What's not okay is freezing and not doing anything about it. When we're afraid, that's supposed to instigate us to act. And so for me, there's certain actions I'm taking of saying, hey, we've got to do this, and this might help the health situation. We got to do this. We got to let this doctor know. We got to let these people know. We got to do this. We got to do that. There's activity that needs to take place. So if you're feeling afraid of the market or feeling afraid of a health complication that your spouse is going through, it makes sense. It's okay to feel that. It's okay to be afraid. What's not okay is to lay over and take it, not do anything about it. Because courage is not the act of not feeling fear. Courage is the act of being afraid and doing what needs to be done anyway, because you plan on taking control of your destiny. And so for you, if you're ever afraid of the financial picture in your life, you're afraid of all the debt, you're afraid of my investments are down 50%, you're afraid of a debt collector, you're afraid of the IRS coming after you, you're afraid of the disorganization of work might lead to you losing your job, whatever it may be, it's okay to feel the fear. What's not okay is sitting there and feeling the fear and not doing anything about it, because the reason God gave you that emotion was so that you would use that as a warning that you need to go and do something about something in your life. So if you've got fear in your life that is rational, then it is prompting you to do something. It is your job to figure out what it is that you need to do to bring peace into your life. Make no mistake, you can find peace in the middle of the storm. But part of walking in the fruit of the Spirit of peace is putting the things in your life into a peaceful state wherever possible. So please, I encourage you, if you're afraid, as I am right now, do something about it and help the outcomes to be as positive as they possibly can be. Don't just sit on your hands thinking that it's all going to work out while you do absolutely nothing. I'll close with a story. There's a way that people teach about this with God. People say, there's a hurricane, and I'm sitting on top of a roof, and the flood waters are coming up and up and up and up and up, and I get on my knees and I start praying, God, save me from the flood. And then 10 minutes later, I see a helicopter come by, and the helicopter says, hey, we're coming to save you, we're coming to rescue you, jump on, come on, we'll carry you to safety. And the guy on the roof says, no, I don't need your help, I'm praying to God that he's going to save me. And then an hour later, the helicopter circles back around. He says, come on, man, the waters are rising. You're going to drown. What's going on? And the guy says, no, I trust God. He's going to save me. And then a boat comes by. And the boat comes by and says, hey, we're going to save you. Get on the boat. We're going to save your life. You're going to drown if you stay here. And he says, no, I'm praying to God. He's going to save me. And then the water rises and he drowns and he dies. God didn't show up, right? That's what everybody's going to think. Well, the guy gets to heaven, he walks in the gates, he walks in the gates, he's on the streets of gold, and he walks up to God and he says, God, what the heck? I asked you to save me. And he says, why didn't you save me? Why am I here? Why am I dead? I'm supposed to be here like 40 years from now. And God said, well, I did send you a helicopter twice in a boat and you didn't get on it. I did save you. You didn't accept it. So please, don't just sit in your fear. Do something about it. And when God sends you a helicopter, or when God sends you a boat, when God sends you this video, or YouTube algorithm sends you this video, saying do something about it, don't sit on your hands waiting for a white knight in shining armor to come and pick you up, throw you on the back of the horse, and cart you out of there. You got to get on your feet and you got to do something about it yourself. Peace.